everybody, it's Ma'am Florence. And previously in the lesson activity, you were asked, how did life begin? So if you answered that question, you might have had different ideas on how life came about. And maybe you are now curious to learn more about it. So right now, I'll be showing you the first part in this lesson. Okay, so here we have the current beliefs about the origin of life. Let's get onto it. So we have three different beliefs here that I want to share with you. And the first one is called divine creation. Okay, so you might be familiar with this one. The divine creation is considered as the oldest hypothesis. And it's a belief that life came from a divine being. It's also the most accepted belief, with this one being all over the world and different versions, different divine beings mentioned. Nevertheless, it means that life forms in everything in this universe. It was created through supernatural power rather than naturalistic means. Also, we have the term creationism, where life arose from nothing but the power of a divine. So this is our first belief, okay? Divine creation. A lot of people have this belief in mind that this is how it all began. Other than the most common and the most accepted one, we have what's called spontaneous origin. So this is actually quite interesting because it states that life evolved from inanimate matter. So in this belief, they had what's called the primordial soup, as you can see in this picture. Here, we have complex biological compounds, and they were randomly assembled in an organic broth on Earth's early surface. And we have the Miller-Urey experiment, where lightning may have helped trigger the creation of building blocks of life on Earth during the earliest time periods. So again, in spontaneous origin, they believe that life arose from inanimate matter. So it did not come from living things itself. Okay, in spontaneous origin. Okay, and we have the third and last belief for this part. It's called panspermia. Panspermia, what is this all about? So panspermia was a belief created by Svante Arrhenius, where he stated that life arose outside Earth and life forms were transported from another planet to seed on life. This belief proposes that a meteor or cosmic dust may have carried to Earth significant amounts of organic molecules, which started the evolution of life. Interesting, right? So in panspermia, they have this belief that a life force came from different planets other than Earth. So it was just transported here to seed on life. Panspermia. Okay, so we have three beliefs that we were able to talk about. Again, divine creation, and then we had spontaneous origin and panspermia. Okay, those are the current beliefs that we have. So different beliefs on how life came to Earth. Okay, so speaking of life here on Earth, of course, you are considered to be living, right? Right? Considering that you're watching this video, you're able to do that. So I want to ask you a question. If you'd have a superpower, what would it be and why? Anything that you can choose from. Just think of it. What would it be and why? If you were to ask me, I would say that I want to have a superpower of being able to travel through time. Wow. But if it was you, what would it be? Anything. So here I'm showing you this GIF of the Avengers. Though they are fictional characters, but they have superpowers. Okay, they are superheroes. But aside from the Avengers, let's consider the normal human being. Okay, so all living things have something in common. Though we may not have superpowers like the Avengers or anything that you might have thought about, we still have some things that make us different from non-living things. So we are still unique in our way that we are not the same as non-living things. Like, say for example, the laptop that you have, your cell phone, or that water bottle, or the stones, the soil in your backyard. See, we are different from them. Why? What makes us different? What makes us uh, able to be considered as a living organism? Can you name some? So here, I will be showing you different, what we call, unifying themes in living organisms. Okay? These are the things that make you and I special. Let's see. So we have 7 different unifying themes. The first one that we have states that living things are composed of cells. Okay. So I have some sample pictures here for you. An animal cell, a plant cell. So cells, which are present in our bodies, they have structures. As you can see in our pictures, they are in different colors, shapes, sizes, both present in an animal and a plant cell. So these structures, they are called organelles, which just means little organs, organelles. And they have their own job. Okay, together they work as a team to make sure that you are alive and kicking. Okay, so that's the first thing that we have to consider. We are made of cells. This body of ours, it's made up of small cells. Okay, second one that we have, living things have different levels of organization. So if we were to connect it to the first one, we have small cells in our bodies that will then form to be complex structures. Okay, so biological levels of organization of living things, they are arranged from simplest to the most complex ones. So if you were asked, what's the basic unit of matter? Okay, basic unit. Okay, let's use the picture. So the basic unit of matter is the atom. So atoms will then form to make a larger structure called a molecule. And then from that molecule, groups of molecules will form to become a cell, which is in your body right now. Those cells will group together to form a tissue. And those tissues will form an organ. And an organ will form a body system. And those body systems together, they will form an organism, which is just like you, or this elephant in this picture. And then organisms of the same species, for example, all elephants, will form a population. So the same species. And then different populations will form communities. So now we consider other species, like for example, an elephant, a monkey, or a tree. So community. And then ecosystems. This is where we also look at their environment. And lastly, we have the biosphere. So this is the overall living space that we have. So example, there we have the Earth. Okay, so again, for the second theme, we have different levels of organization. Simplest to the most complex. Alright. Okay, moving on to the third one. Living things obtain and use energy. And this slide here might make you think, are you hungry right now? Are you okay? So if you are not, if you're feeling kind of hungry, then you can follow this girl. You can grab a cookie or a snack or drink your water, stay hydrated. Why? Because living things like you and I, we use energy. So it's different for different living things. We can either make it on our own or depend on others to make food for them. So for plants, fortunately for them, they are able to make their own food and not rely on others. Now, it's a process called photosynthesis. But for us, unfortunately, we cannot stand in the sun and be full automatically, right? We need to look for food and then eat it. So, but either way, we are the same in the part that we need energy to survive. So, I hope that you will listen to your body if you're hungry, because that's your body telling you that you need to survive. Okay. And then, speaking of using that energy, all the chemical processes, reactions, and energy changes happening inside your body, it's referred to as metabolism. So, I hope you have heard this term before. So, this term is a collective term, okay? It means all of the processes that happens inside your body. And also, the process by which energy is released by the breakdown of food substances is called cellular respiration. So, for example, in this JF that we have, there's a donut traveling through the stomach. So, this donut is your food substance, and it will be broken down into small pieces. So, that process will release energy. Okay, so it's called cellular respiration, a very important process in our bodies. And lastly, the process which organisms acquire food is called nutrition. Okay, and those terms are all related to the third theme that we have. Right? Next one, living things respond to their environment. So, we have this ability, we can respond to what is happening in our environment. Okay, we are able to detect and respond to stimuli from their environment. So, what's a stimuli or a stimulus? A stimulus is a signal to which an organism responds. So, it can be anything, as long as it's a signal for us to respond to. So, the reaction that we have from those stimuli, it's called tropism. So, there are different kinds of tropism present. So, I have some GIFs here for you. The first one is a Venus flytrap. Have you seen a real one before? So, this is what a Venus flytrap looks like. It's actually a plant, but it can make its own food, yeah, but it also wants to try something else, like animals, insects, and animals like this unfortunate frog. So, this plant here is responding to a stimuli. Can you guess which stimuli is this plant responding to? So, as you can see, as soon as that frog touches the red part of the plant, it will close. It will trap the animal there. So, it is responding to touch. Okay, so therefore, this kind of tropism is called thigmotropism. Okay, next one in the bottom part, you can see that we have some sprouts here, and they are very adorably responding to light. As you can see, it bends towards the source of light. So with that, this is called phototropism. So they're responding to light. Also, irritability or sensitivity is the ability of an organism to respond appropriately against a stimulus. Okay, so it is very important to note, class, that we can respond to our environment, different stimuli that's present. Also, I want to note this one. Living things must maintain homeostasis to survive in diverse environments. What is homeostasis and what makes it very important? Homeostasis is the maintenance of constant internal conditions. You see, our bodies, it just has one goal: to reach a state of equilibrium where everything is just on the right spot. Like this example that we have, it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. So this is what our bodies are looking for most of the time, to just be in the middle. Although different organ systems perform individualized functions, they all work together to achieve a coordinated goal. And take note, that is to keep the organism alive, to keep you alive. So your bodies are very, very smart. Why, ma'am? Let's look at some examples here. So we have Homer. Thank you for your uh, appearance. We can see here that there are different stimuli present. Okay, first one, um, where the environment's temperature is high. So it's quite hot. Okay, as you can see, Homer is sweating a lot because it's hot. So that is the response of his body. Oh, so what does this mean? It just means, class, that sweating is your body's response to cool down. Okay, so that is mainly the reason why we sweat. So our bodies can cool down to reach a lower body temperature because it's hot. So we want to cool down. And then what if the environment is cold, the temperature is lower? Then what will be the response of the body? It tends to shiver because it's cold. So it means that by shivering, your body is trying to create more friction between your muscles, thus it will increase your body temperature. So we will not freeze. Okay, see? Smart bodies. Just to make sure that you're alive. Okay, also, motility. Most animals can move from one place to another by walking, flying, swimming, gliding, or jumping. So you can see I have different GIFs here for you. This man, he's walking, the bird is flying, the penguin is waving, and of course the dolphin is there jumping. So, living organisms are capable of doing this. Such movement is called locomotion. But it's also important to take note that it's different for different living things. For plants, they cannot really run, walk, or fly, but they are still able to react to stimuli. Okay, so yeah, that's one thing. Motility, we can do that. And then next one, okay, fifth one, living things grow. Okay, so growth is an increase in size and volume by converting food to become a part of body cells. Ooh, so we convert food to become a part of us? Does this mean, ma'am, that you are what you eat? Technically, not exactly, but yeah. So as you can see, I have some examples here for you, like our sprouts, they're growing. It just means that they're not the same size as they were before. And of course, here in the picture at the bottom, we can see different stages of growth for a male human being. So at first, it's a baby, it's a toddler, until it grows to be an old man. Also, we have other terms such as intussusception. This is a process in which living things exhibit growth from within the cells. Also, well, non-living things are also capable of growing. That is called accretion. And by that, we mean that it's not by their cells growing bigger, but it's the external addition of substances. For example, we have this concrete road, and it used to be just 1 kilometer, but then cement was added to it, so it grew. It is now double in its length. So see, that is accretion. Okay, so again, that is number 5, living things grow. Moving on, let's go to the next one. Okay, so here we can see a cell dividing. So every living organism begins as a single cell. Believe it or not, you were a single cell before. So we have unicellular organisms. These are, as the name suggests, these are organisms that only have one cell. So they may stay as just one cell, but they grow too. It just means that the cell keeps on getting bigger and bigger. Like this example, can you look at this one, the JF at the bottom? This is an amoeba. Do you know what an amoeba is? This is the one. It looks kind of slimy, and they are pseudopods. So this amoeba here is actually, it's engulfing another cell called a paramecium. They're stuck inside. So this is a single cell, a unicellular organism. So it will grow in size. But for multicellular organisms, those that have more than one cell in their bodies, they add more and more cells to form more tissues and organs as they grow. Okay, they form a lot of organs. And speaking of organs, organogenesis is the term for the formation and growth of complex processes of cell differentiation and formation of new organs. So I have an example here. First off, we have this single muscle cell. Okay, and then more cells are then added to create this tissue. It's a cardiac tissue. And then more tissues, more cells to form this organ, which is the heart. And then more organs to form the vascular system. And then more organ systems to form now a human being, the organism that we have. Okay, so thank you to our cells for dividing and dividing and keeping us alive. Okay, now let's go to the sixth one. Living things reproduce and develop. So this is also very important for living things like us. Reproduction is the process by which genetic information is passed from one generation to another as organisms produce offspring that resemble our parents. So as you can notice here in my example, we have this family, human family, and at the bottom we have the adorable golden retriever family. So the offspring, the children, will of course resemble their parents. So if you have siblings, okay, you might notice that some of them really look like photocopies of their parents. And also we have another term, it's development. This is the series of changes that happens which organisms undergo in the passage from the embryonic state to maturity, from a lower to a higher state of organization. So this is the sixth one, reproduction, reproduce and develop. Okay, so speaking of reproduction, there are two ways to do this. So we have asexual and sexual reproduction. Let's look at this picture here and try to identify what's the difference between the two in asexual and asexual reproduction. Okay, let's try to follow the arrows that we have. So for asexual reproduction, you might notice that it will start with one cell. Okay, just one cell. And then this one cell will divide. So again, it will form offspring. So we have now two cells. Again, it's asexual reproduction. It means that it will not need another organism to reproduce. But in sexual reproduction, it's the opposite. So here we have two different organisms. So the blue one and the green one, the male and female organism, these two will undergo the cell division called meiosis. They will exchange genetic material in them. And then with that, they will be able to produce now their offspring that will share same characteristics as their parents. Okay, so let's look at some examples. In asexual reproduction, we have unicellular organisms. So they don't need other organisms other than themselves to reproduce. Also, in hydras that is present for them. And in sweet potatoes as well. And in sexual reproduction, you can see here, like in humans, we need to have father, which is the male organism, and the mother, the female one. So their sex cells or their gametes, they will fuse and then exchange genetic material to then form this organism right here. Okay, so again, in reproduction, there are two ways, asexual and sexual reproduction. Okay, now let's talk about heredity. Okay, it says here, unity amidst diversity. Organisms carry the common genetic material DNA. Have you heard of this term before? So this is very important because this is the molecule of life and it carries the instruction for assembling protein that is responsible for forming a variety of structure. Ooh, so it's like an instruction manual. Okay, that's how important DNA is because it carries the instructions on how to create an organism like a cute cat. So over here, I have some pictures for you. This is what a DNA strand looks like. At the bottom, we can see a cell, an individual cell. And inside the nucleolus, we can look at a chromosome. And then inside the chromosome, the double-stranded DNA is present. Also, living things like us, we are based on a universal genetic code. Ooh, so DNA is present in different living organisms. So this DNA is the direction for inheritance. DNA is short for deoxyribonucleic acid. And the genetic code is basically the same for all organisms on Earth. It will just have different combinations. Did you know that we share 90% of our DNA with a banana? Cool, right? It just means that everything here on Earth is somehow related and connected. Okay, anyway, let's go to the last unifying themes in the study of life that we have. Number 7 says that living things evolve and adapt. Evolution, this term refers to the change in characteristics of a group of organisms, which are populations, over time. Also, evolutionary adaptation is a gradual or rapid change in body structure or behavior to be better suited and to survive a new environment. Okay, so I have an example here for you. Actually, these are theories in evolution by two different people, Lamarck and Darwin. So in Darwin's theory, here in the giraffe's neck, ancestral giraffes stretched their necks. So as resources were becoming scarce for them, they had to look for alternatives. So they started to eat the leaves on around trees like that. And then their offspring inherited the stretched necks. And this happens repeatedly over generations. So that's how giraffes have these long necks now. But in Darwin's theory, it stated here that among ancestral giraffes, some individuals had longer necks than others. So there were just selected giraffes, selected individuals that had this kind of characteristics. And then over time, those who had that characteristics, they were the ones to survive. Basically, it says the survival of the fittest. So those who had this ideal characteristic, they were the ones who remained. And then this happened repeatedly over generations, and that's how the giraffe's necks came about. So in this last unifying theme, it just states that living things like us, we are capable of evolution and adaptation to whatever environment that we have. Yes, so again, we have 7 different unifying themes in the study of life. So you can think about it. We can recall those unifying themes. And we can think of which one, what do you think? Which one is the most important one or which one do you appeal to? But either way, all of them are important in our survival. Alright, so okay, that's it for this video. Here I showed you the current beliefs in the origin of life. We had 3 of those. And I also showed you the 7 unifying themes in the study of life. I hope you learned something from this video. If there are points that are confusing for you, you can just go back and view it again. But anyway, I'll see you on the other parts. This is Ma'am Florence. Thank you.